Hi everyone, Oli here, and welcome to my review of The Daleks, the second story of the first season of classic Doctor Who, and starring William Hartnell as the first Doctor. And of course, this is the first appearance of the Daleks. It's 7 parts long and is written by Terry Nation. The plot of the Daleks is as follows. The TARDIS stands in an alien petrified jungle, beyond which lies a mysterious deserted city. The Doctor insists on exploring. Pardon me. But before long, the TARDIS crew all begin experiencing the early effects of radiation sickness. And then they discover that the Metal City isn't as deserted as they first thought. Okay, so the first time I watched this story early in the year, I wasn't too enthralled by it, but watching it again a few weeks ago, I liked it more than I did the first time I watched it. As I mentioned before, this is the first appearance of the Daleks, one of the most iconic enemies to ever appear in Doctor Who, and it had a very good introduction, I thought. I think Terry Nation did a very good job in making the Daleks quite scary. I mean, this is like an odd 20 odd years after the Second World War, and the whole war is still, the whole horrors of the Second World War is still pretty much on the minds of the people watching it, and I think the scariness of the Daleks, I think that's something New Who tend to like fall flat on. Well, mainly in the Stephen Moffat era, but in the Russell T Davies era, he actually did try making them scary. And Chibnall, even though we've only seen Resolution, I think he did try and making the Dalek, the Recon Dalek, a bit scary. And then there was a part in, I think, in the middle of the story, the Daleks, that the Daleks were actually doing a Nazi salute. Subtle. So obviously now the main cast. William Hartnell, I thought he was very good here. His character is starting to show signs for the change for the better. There was a part in the last part where he strongly opposed the Daleks' plan and he was like, "This senseless evil killing." I actually like that scene and like that speech. Well, phrase. And the TARDIS team are starting to work coherently here, and that's something I liked and I enjoyed seeing, especially the part when the Dr. Ian, Susan and Barbara were pretending to like get into a bit of a scuffle so they can remove the Dalek camera in the Dalek prison. And I liked how afterwards they were all working together to like escape the Dalek city, and that was actually quite cool. I liked seeing that. And Ian, I actually thought he was written well here, and his character is actually well established in this story. I mean, if you know Ian, he's this adventurous. He's more hands-on more than the Doctor is, the first Doctor, and he's pretty much a secondary hero. Well, because of William Hartnell, he couldn't really do much because of his age. And that was pretty much throughout his travels in the TARDIS. He was this action companion. Ian was the action companion before he left, and then Stephen took over. And I like the moment where Ian was trying to like get the Thals to like assist him to go to the Dalek city, and they were all quite hesitant because they were pacifists. And then Ian threatened, I think he wanted to like destroy the Thals history materials, and they were like, And then Ian started to threaten one of the Thal girls, and then he got a punch in the face. I actually liked that scene, but it was actually kind of funny as well. Babs and Susan were quite good, but I don't think they did a whole lot. Except for Barbara in the cliffhanger episode when she was like threatened with a Dalek plunger. And she's like, "Ah!" The Thals were good as well, even though I can't remember most of their names. Garnetus is probably the only one I remember for some odd reason. But they were I can't speak for some reason, but they were very well written and very good side characters. The episode had 2 directors, Richard Martin and Christopher Barry. I can't remember why there were 2 directors. I think Christopher Barry directed episode 4 or something like that. Yeah, they were both very good. The directions were quite good. It was very good. I think they did a really good job, and they actually do return to direct more Doctor Who stories. I think Martin directed The Web Planet and The Dalek Invasion of Earth. Can't remember if he directed any others. And Christopher Barry is a director who returned to like direct a lot more Doctor Who stories. I think his last one was Tom Baker's story, The Creature from the Pit, I think. Yeah, I think that was his last story he directed for Doctor Who. But for the Daleks, I like the set design, and I like the whole foresty, petrified. It was definitely very scary, and I enjoyed that. And it's a shame that Skaro isn't really presented in the whole foresty area compared to the the quarry area, or the quarry scene, as it's portrayed. Okay, as it's portrayed most of the times, but I think it was still quite good though. I still enjoyed it. I mean, the story itself was actually very dark and quite serious compared to An Earthly Child. Compared to the last one, the TARDIS, but with this story, the TARDIS crew actually were suffering from radiation sickness, and you can see them, especially around the second part, the second or third part, they were very ill and they looked like they're going to die. And that was, if you're watching it from the 60s, I thought from a 60s perspective, just watching that, even just watching it today, I actually found that quite scary. Also, the Dalek mythology here, the genesis of the Daleks actually predates this story in terms of the what's the word again? In terms of the ordering in the mythology, because I think there's someone on the BBC website that mentioned that the Daleks that appear in this story were the Davros' early prototypes before he created the Daleks we see in Genesis of the Daleks. But I don't want to get into that because I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'll post the link in the description. And so yeah, okay, so the story actually had a lot of strong points, but at the same time there were some parts that were like I didn't really enjoy. But for starters, I think 7-parters was actually quite too much for this story. Some 7-parters I actually find very hard to watch because it's long, and if the plot drags, and then there's a problem. And there was a bit of a drag around the middle, but the story actually did pick up there around after episode 5. But I think it would have been better as a 5 or 6-parter instead of the odd 7 parts. I would have merged the first 2 episodes together, to be honest. And I think I would have enjoyed the episode a lot more than that. And there was also a part when Barbara had a bit of a romance plot with one of the Thals. I thought that was a bit random, but I didn't really understand. I thought it was a bit forced, and they even kissed at the end. I was just like, seriously? Like, what? But as I said, some parts did drag, but it was still an okay story. So overall, it's an enjoyable story, a very monumental story for obvious reasons, because it's the first appearance of the Daleks. It was a very good introduction to them, and they'll have more good stories, or maybe up until Destiny of the Daleks, maybe. no, not Destiny, Day of the Daleks. I don't really like Day of the Daleks, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give the Daleks a 7 out of 10. But it would probably have been a 10 out of 10 if they removed some parts and if it was a 5 or a 6-parter. My next review will be The Edge of Destruction, where in my opinion I think this is where Doctor Who starts coming into form here. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video as well. Feel free to give some feedback for my review and tell me what you thought of the Daleks. Thank you for watching. This is Oli. Peace.